Hello, my name is Kjeld, and in this tutorial video I will show you how to set up, compile and flash the R2Pilot codebase for the PixArk4 or HKPilot32. I will be using a 64-bit Windows 8 installation, but this tutorial will most likely also work on older versions of Windows. I will not go over the installation procedure for other types of operating systems. We will start off with installing and configuring the toolchain. Then we will set up the development environment, and finally we'll build the firmware and actually flash it to our controller. In order to install the PX4 toolchain, we'll have to download it from the PixArk website. I'll put all these links in the description so you can just find them there. Now you want to click on the PX4 toolchain installer version 14. This will download a rather large file. It will probably take a few minutes. When it's finished downloading, go ahead and run the installer. Click on I agree. Make sure everything is selected and click on next. I advise you to keep this path as is. Now while the installer is busy, you should go ahead and clone 3 required repositories to your machine. To do this you will either need a Git client which allows cloning, or have Git installed and working in the command prompt. I will be using a prompt. Start off by making a folder somewhere in your file system named something like R2Pilot software. Inside this folder create 3 subfolders named px4 nutex, px4 firmware and R2Pilot. Now go ahead and start up a prompt and type in the following command: git clone followed by the address of the repository you want to clone. I'll start off with nutex, followed by the folder on your local machine you want to clone it to. Now you have to make sure that the name of the repository is actually the same name as the folder. And do this with every repository. So git clone. Now we'll do the px4 firmware. Make sure it's the px4 firmware folder on your machine. And finally R2Pilot itself. And once again make sure you're cloning it to the R2Pilot folder on your machine. Now this will probably take a while. When the installer has finished and all repositories have been cloned to your machine, we can now go ahead and create a configuration file for the R2Pilot. To do this, open up another command prompt and change directories to your R2Copter directory, which you can find inside R2Pilot. In this directory run the command make configure. Now this will write a small configuration file which contains some info on the building platform and the whereabouts of other repositories on your machine. If you follow this tutorial, then all repositories will most likely be in the same folder. If this is not the case, then you have to do some extra editing in your configuration file, which I will not go over. Next we will set up our development environment. We will be using the Eclipse that comes with the Toolchain installer. To open it, search your PC for px4 Eclipse. Note that this version uses some pre-configured settings which are required to build all the make targets. If an error pops up, make sure you have a 32-bit Java development kit installed and add it to your environment variables. Now it doesn't really matter where you select your workspace, so just go ahead and click OK. When Eclipse has started up, navigate to File, New, Make File Project with existing code, This will present you with a new screen. Enter the location of the ArduPilot repository on your local machine. Make sure you select Cross GCC as your compiler. Now the ArduPilot codebase has its C++ code in files with a .pde extension. This is not recognized as a valid C++ extension by default, so we'll have to add it first. Go to Window, Preferences, select C++, select File Types and click on New. As your pattern type star.pde, and as a type select C++ source file and click OK. Next we'll add the required make target to our project. Go to the make target tab on the right and select the ArduPilot project and press new make target. Now you should create the following make targets: px4 v2, px4 v2 upload, and finally clean. Now that we have our development environment set up, we can start building the firmware and flashing it to the controller. To build the firmware, we'll first need to change to the build directory. In this example, I'll be changing it to the ArduCopter directory. To do this, right click the project, go to Properties. In here, navigate to C++ build, go to Builder Settings and type /ArduCopter behind the build directory path. Click on Apply. Now the building process is rather slow, so you can speed it up a bit by enabling parallel builds. Now you can click on px4 v2 and it will start compiling. Make sure you switch your view to the console. There will probably be lots of warnings showing up, but you don't have to pay any attention to them. Next we will run px4 v2 upload. This will probably take around 3 minutes, but get your controller ready. After a while you will be asked to plug in your controller. When you do this, it should upload the firmware, but this can take multiple tries. As you can see, it worked for me. It's erasing all the memory that's on there, and then it's reprogramming it. And once it's done programming, it will check